All right, on this episode of Inside Beast Athletics, we have international basketball player development coach Ryan Pannone. All right, it's Tuck Taylor, and I'm here with Coach Ryan Pannone. Ryan Pannone's a good friend of Beast Athletics, good personal friend of mine. This guy's bio is insane. He gave me his bio. We have tons and tons of things he's done. Let's just go knock out a few things he's done. First of all, as a high school coach, he was a coach at Oldmar Christian High School and Faith Baptist High School, correct?
Correct.
He has a record of 131 and 42. 131 wins, 42 losses. He's coached at the high school and professional level. As a high school coach, he beat 3 USA Today top 25 teams. He's coached over, how many Division I athletes do you think you've coached?
Over 25.
25 Division I athletes, so he's responsible for sending over 25 kids to college on Division I scholarships. He's also coached professionally in 3 different continents. All right, so we're talking about the game of basketball here. This guy's a basketball guru, one of the most hardest working people I know, one of the most passionate people I know. This guy has pretty much, when you say sacrificed your life for your love of the game of basketball.
Definitely sacrificed my life. Basketball guru is a strong word. Hard worker is probably more accurate. Very fortunate to have been around a lot of really good coaches and learned from a lot of really good people on a few different continents and a bunch of different countries. So,
hey, I'm extremely blessed to have you on the show. Thanks for taking time out your day to come here and be on the show. Just want to kind of let people know a little bit about what you do, how you got your start, some of the nuances, some of the maybe the struggles that you went through getting to where you get, some of the sacrifices that you had to make to get where you are now. So let's get into the show.
Sure.
All right. So first off, let's just talk about, people want to know your credentials. So let's name drop a little bit. Well, name some of the players that you've worked with.
I've been very fortunate to have a lot of good players that have allowed me to be a part of their career. Players like Joakim Noah, Luau Dang, Kevin Martin, Corey Brewer, Omri Caspi, Gal Meckel. Guys that have had a lot of success internationally and played some in the NBA like Nick Kalathis. Been very lucky to work with over 50 different NBA players.
So, okay, that's the end result. Now you're this basketball, you don't like the word guru, but you're a basketball enthusiast, very knowledgeable about the game. So how did you get your start? Were you a player yourself? What take me through your timeline a little bit.
So I started out playing at the middle school and high school level. Tuck here actually was my coach in 8th grade at a camp. And went on to play at the high school level. I wasn't a very good player. I had some small college opportunities. And a guy who was like a father to me, my 2 best friends' dad, offered me a job once I graduated high school. And it was an overpaying job for an 18-year-old. And I took that job and became his assistant coach at the high school I played at. I did that for 2 years, and we were fortunate to have some success and start to build the program at Oldmar Christian. And I just kind of realized I didn't want to work a normal 9-to-5 job. All I thought about every day was basketball, and I decided to take a chance, and I looked up a guy by the name of David Thorpe, who's currently an NBA analyst for ESPN and a personal trainer to many NBA players, and I knew he was in our area, so I looked him up in the white pages. And he denies this part, but I called him 3 or 4 times. Finally, he gave a small-timer like me a phone call back. And I told him I had a high school gym, and I was willing to do whatever he asked and do whatever he needed to get done if he would just let me come and be a part of it and learn from him. And I started out as an intern for him. In that first year, we had Kevin Martin, Udonis Haslam, Orion Green, who all played in the NBA. We had some pre-draft guys. Yotam Helprin, who was an Israeli taken in the 2nd round. Guillermo Diaz, who played at University of Miami, was drafted by the Clippers. Alexander Johnson, who played in the NBA some. And started out there with him interning, and he happened to like my work ethic and my desire to learn and grow as a coach, and he ended up hiring me, and I've worked with him now for over 12 years, and it's been one of the best learning experiences of my life. So did that and was able to take that and grow. I became the head high school coach at Old Smart Christian, and we kind of grew our program to have some good success and tried to model our program after Kevin Sutton and Montverde Academy. He built that program up there, which is now one of the top high school teams in the country.
Every year.
And Kevin Sutton, who's now an assistant coach at Pittsburgh, really built that up. And I tried to model everything we did after his team, from on the court, off the court, in the classroom, and trying to build more than the player, trying to build the person. And we considered our success not by wins and losses, but by lives impacted and helping guys go to college. And we were very fortunate to have a lot of kids go to college, not just at the Division I level, but Division II, junior college, NAIA. And from there, I ended up taking a college coaching job at the junior college level, and it was one of the most fun years. We started out awful, and we went into the college tournament as the last place team, and then in 4 straight days, we won 4 games and went to the college national tournament at Hutchinson, Kansas. And then I took a job in China and was there for a year, which was a great experience. A great coach by the name of Joe Welton, who spent 30 years in Europe. Learned a lot from him. And then I went back to working with Coach Thorpe full-time in his NBA consulting business. And we had 6 full-time NBA players that I traveled around with and got to work with throughout the year. And then from there, I went to the NBA D-League. And then after 1 year of the NBA D-League working for Bill Peterson, who's actually a Pinellas County guy, great coach, very prominent skill development coach, spent 8 years as an assistant in the NBA. I got an opportunity to go to Germany and coach in Europe, which had kind of been a goal of mine to get to Europe. And I worked for a great boss and a great club, and it opened up doors to now take a job as a player development coach for Hapoel Jerusalem, which is a Euro Cup team, and a team Amari Stoudemire actually just signed with it.
The Amari Stoudemire,
That
is awesome.
Yeah.
So, like I told you guys, the laundry list of this guy's basketball experience goes on and on and on and on for days. One of the major reasons I wanted to have him on the show is, one, for him to share his experience with basketball, but also to prove to a lot of kids out there and people that are pursuing career in sports that it's not all about just being the greatest player on the court or playing the game. You know, the sport of basketball has literally taken this guy across the world, provided a lot of opportunities for him, opened a lot of doors for him. So what would be your message to kids out there now that are playing that might not pan out to be the next Michael Jordan, next Kobe Bryant, and still wants to stay involved in the game?
I would, number one, obviously while you're in high school, try to be the best player you can be. And fortunately, you may get the opportunity to play at college. And there's a lot of players that feel like if they're not playing at a Division I school, it's not worth it. And you yourself played at a Division II school. And I would encourage players to play at any level, Division III, Division II,
Absolutely.
NAI. Play and get that opportunity, because there's really only a small percentage of players that get to play college basketball at any level. And so many times high school players feel like playing at anything below a Division I is beneath them, and it's not true. And there are many players that are playing internationally. There's few in the NBA and few in the NBA D-League that played at small schools, played at D2s or D3s or NAIs. And number one, I would take that opportunity and run with it. 2, if you don't have a chance to play at that level and you still want to be a part of it, playing is the best. There's no question. To me personally, being a coach is the second best. And I know some of my former players have branched off into sports in other ways outside of playing and coaching. One of them is Ben O'Donnell, who played at
Benny O! Let's go.
He was a tremendous player.
Yes.
And he ended up, now he's a strength coach at Kansas State. So he stayed involved in a different path than what I did. And if anyone gets a chance to work with Ben or see Ben, his passion for what he does is crazy. I mean, he's just, if you watch him, the guy just loves every day. Another former player named Stephen Krause, who played at an NAI school in college, ended up tearing his ACL, and his college career was kind of limited by that. Is now working on becoming a physiotherapist or a trainer for college teams. And so he stayed involved in the game in a completely different way than what Ben did and what I did. And then I've got some former players that have taken the coaching route. So I would say, playing is not the only way to stay involved with the sport that you love. And for most players, spent their whole life chasing. And I've been very, very fortunate that basketball's taken me all over Asia and Europe and different states for camps, clinics, coaching opportunities.
And another, to piggyback off of that a little bit too, my experience with that is, I was local player in the area and all that good stuff. And like you said, played Division II. And what I've really gotten out of that is just relationships. I've built some of the best relationships with people just by playing sports. Me and you. Different other people. You talk about Ben O'Donnell. He was just in here today. We had a 2-hour conversation. So basketball is kind of like music where it's like a universal language. You're able to really relate and connect with people that you normally probably wouldn't connect with if you weren't playing that sport.
Without basketball, number one, I would say almost all of my friends or people that I'm close with is through basketball in some way, whether we played together, we played against each other. From a coaching standpoint, some college coaches that recruited my friends. I was a manager at the University of South Florida, and one of my best friends was a player there. And my wife, I wouldn't be married to my wife. She played at a small college. And when I was coaching high school, my basketball players actually were the ones that were trying to set us up. And without Joakim Noah, I would not be married to my wife.
Did not know that story.
Yeah,
did not know that story.
So my wife, as I was pursuing her, I encouraged her to play some games and horses against me, and I let her win, of course. That way I could make her dinner. And then I got her to go to the ACC tournament, which a few of my players were playing, one for Clemson and one for NC State. One for Florida State, so I took her to the tournament with me. And then I ended up going to the Final Four. And when I was talking to her on the phone, I could tell she kind of wanted to break it off. She had a guy she was previously dating, and almost the effect of something new was wearing off. And her favorite player was Joakim Noah. And Florida was playing for their second national championship in Atlanta. And I got Joakim Noah to autograph a basketball for me. So when I came back, she tried to break up with me. Her birthday is 2 weeks after the Final Four. She tried to break up with me, and I was like, oh, but I got you this basketball signed by your favorite player. And it turned out the other guy did not get her anything for her birthday. And so when I see Joe, I call him Cupid. And we ended up we were fortunate. Joe allowed Coach Thorpe and I to be a part of his career for 3 years. And he didn't know that story until I saw him again, and I told him I wouldn't be married if it weren't for him. She would have broke up with me, man. Joakim Noah, bringing people together.
That is crazy. Yeah. That is crazy. Yeah. I like Joakim a lot better now. He wasn't one of my favorite players, but now I like the spirit behind that, man.
People don't, Joakim Noah's work ethic is really, really good. People don't understand at that level to play the way that he does.
Yes.
I mean, he's a guy that plays hard all the time.
Yes.
Well, that's how he trains. So, we're working him out, and instead of say, okay, we're going to do 8 of this, 8 pick and pop shots, he's going to do 3 as hard as he can, as fast as he can at game speed, or 4 till he's out of breath. He was injured one time, and he came and he trained with us at the All-Star break to kind of get back in shape. And he's going to go as hard as he can 3 to 4 times and put himself out of shape instead of going at a pace where he can complete 8 reps. So go 3 or 4 rests, 3 or 4 until he gets to 8. And the same way he plays, the way he practices. And he's a one more guy. And I think in any line of work and anything you're trying to do to be successful, whether it's your job or your training or it's lifting weights, exercising, he's the kind of guy that, you say 10, he's going to do 11. And he'll be like, let's make one more. Let's make one more. And then he says it about 20 times. All of a sudden, he's made 20 extra shots.
So that kind of jars another question for me. You've worked with countless amount of athletes, Division I, Division II, professional, NBA. What's the difference between the pro and the Joe? What's the difference between the guy that gets all the way to the big show, to the NBA, and the guy that doesn't make it? What's the difference?
I would say, number one, you clearly got to say talent.
Right.
You know, the majority of these guys are 6'7", 6'8", 6'9", 7'2". They have size for their position. You know, Omri Caspi was blessed with being 6'9", and a small forward, and quick for his height. So talent, God-given ability is number one. But then I would say that there are many players that have played college basketball, high school basketball, that have NBA-level talent, but they don't have the determination, the focus, and the capacity for work. The difference between college players and NBA players is a capacity for work. They're going to go through the same exact thing that you're going through, but they're going to push themselves harder than you push themselves. And they're great at it. And I've been around players that don't even necessarily have NBA-level talent, but their work ethic is unbelievable, that they fight and claw their way there, and they're just going to out-compete guys. And, you know, I think if you look at it, if a player is better than you, player's here and you're here, and they work harder than you, how can you ever catch them? But if a guy is better than you, and you work harder than him, at some point you're going to catch him. It may be 3 months, it may be 3 years, it may be 7 years. And there's countless stories of guys that were, as a sophomore in high school, junior in high school, senior in high school, they were top 25 players in the country, top 100 players in the country. And then you have guys like Steph Curry or whoever. I mean, there's multiple guys. Kevin Martin, one of the guys we worked with, had just year after year after year, they work their tail off, and they make it. And, you know, Kevin Martin out of high school had one scholarship offer, Western Carolina.
Wow.
And when he declared for the draft after his junior year, he was told he was going to go undrafted. He ended up going towards the end of the first round. And after his first year in the NBA, he barely played. And people thought he was going to end up getting cut, not make it in the NBA. And from his first year to his fifth year in the NBA, nobody in the history of the entire NBA has made the jump in points per game that he made. By his fifth year, he was averaging 24 points a game. And Kevin is a guy that his whole life he wasn't going to be good enough. He was never going to make it. And the guy's work ethic is unbelievable. I mean, it's phenomenal. And so I would say that would be second. And then third is having the right people around you, having people that are giving you advice, it's good advice, it's quality advice. They don't have their best interests in heart, they have your best interests in heart. And people being able to mentor you and guide your career. And I think that is not only critical for NBA players, I think it's any form of profession.
Absolutely.
I would not be where I'm at today without mentorship and advice of David Thorpe, Stan Jones, who's the associate head coach at Florida State, and Kevin Sutton, who's now at Pittsburgh. Without those three guys mentoring me, along with many other friends and colleagues, and giving me advice and being able to tell me, hey, you're messing up, man. This isn't the way you want to do it. You're screwing up. And also having the mentality to accept criticism by people that love me and have my interests at heart, I wouldn't be where I'm at today. So I think that's really critical. Your inner circle can't be yes guys. They can't be. There's a lot of NBA players that never end up reaching their pinnacle, or they end up getting cut. There's guys that end up staying throughout the league and never become as successful as they could be. And then there's guys that get cut because everyone that's surrounding them is telling them yes, yes, yes. You know, oh, am I working hard? Yeah, you're working hard. And said, no, man, you're lazy. Hey, you got to change. You got to change the way you eat. And I think it's very critical in any profession, whether you're a basketball player, a basketball coach, a strength coach, I'm sure you had many mentors, people that are telling you, hey, that's not the right way to do it. Hey, you got to change. Hey, you're not working hard enough.
Absolutely.
You know what, man, you're being really arrogant. You know, I started having success at a young age on a very minor scale in terms of high school basketball, which in the realm of basketball is very
big
small.
Fish in a small pond.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I thought I was great. And I became arrogant and cocky in a way. And you know what, man, I had some people that sat me down and said, hey, you know, quit acting like a punk. You know, that's not how you do it. And I'm very fortunate that those people would do it. And then I would say the next thing is their desire to learn and grow. There are never people that say, you know what, man, I've reached it. I'm the best. This is who I'm going to be. I think the best coaches, the best players, the best strength coaches, the best at anything are lifelong learners, because at the end of the day, your profession evolves. From a strength training side, how different are strength coaches training guys today compared to 25 years ago?
Night and day.
Yeah.
It's night and day.
It's the same thing on the coaching side, and it's the same thing on the playing side. The game, the NBA game has evolved heavily in the last 10 years with utilizing the three-point shots. And so never becoming stagnant, never feeling like, hey, man, I've got it figured out. And in some way, shape, or form, as a player, it comes down to being coachable and listening to the good people that are in your inner circle, the people that you've surrounded yourself with and trust to help you grow your career, because you can't do it alone. There's nobody does it alone except maybe LeBron James, you know, because he's just that much talented, that much more talented than everyone. But most people, they don't do it alone. Some people help them. You've got to surround yourself. And so I think having a willing to adapt, grow, learn, evolve, and I think you and I talk about this a lot. When leaders stop learning, they stop being leaders.
Absolutely.
That's something I heard Coach K say.
Man, I wrote that. We were talking on the phone the other day. I stopped what I was doing. I got my pen out, and I wrote that down. That is so deep on so many levels. Kind of talk a little bit more about that initiative to learn as a leader.
Oh man, you've got to. I think on the coaching side, and whether you're an owner, you're a CEO, you're a manager, you're a coach, you're a strength coach, all the time we're encouraging our employees or our players or our clients to work harder, to do more, to change the way they eat, to grow, and to not stay the same. And I think, number one, if you want to become and improve in those, you have to be able to do that. But number two, we have to be able to do
Absolutely.
that. We have to be able to take time to learn and grow. And I think if you look at the best, which we've said, they're constant learners and growers. But, you know, I try to spend at least an hour a day either watching. I'll break down the best European teams' offenses. How are they defending ball screens? What are they running at a after timeout situation? And trying to study and learn and become better. And then study the way the best point guards are playing out of pick and rolls. What are the reads? What are things they're doing? And then also, from a coaching standpoint, I think it's something most coaches, they don't take advantage of. Learn it from your players. You know, as much as I've learned, as much as I've maybe taught some of our players, they've probably taught me more. Just learning. Gal Meckel, he's an elite level pick and roll player in Europe, plays for Maccabi Tel Aviv. Being able to get his insight, because I wasn't as good as him. My pick and roll insight from a player's perspective isn't going to be the same. And being able to say, hey, why are you doing that? Well, you know, I'm slowing down here to get the defender on my back to read where they're tagging from so I can make the read. You know, whatever the insight may be, I think is really important. Just being willing to learn and learn from everyone. You know, if I come and say, hey, you know what, I'm a professional basketball coach, Tuck played at a Division II college, I have nothing to learn about the game from him, then you're being closed-minded.
Absolutely.
Then you're not going to have the opportunity to grow.
Absolutely.
And I think that's something a lot of coaches do, where we talk about players being arrogant and not having a willingness to learn and having an open heart. I think it's the same thing we do. You know, I may go to someone who's just a high school coach, and because I'm a professional basketball coach, I know more than them, and that's not true, man. There are great coaches at the high school level, and I just firm believe you can learn from anyone. And you may give me some insight, or you may tell me something your college coach did, a drill, or even a phrase. I think a way that as a coach, as you deliver information and the way you get your players to receive that information is important. Being able to have good, digestible sound bites. So you may give me a great coaching phrase here at Beast Athletics where you're telling your guys, hey, this is how we're going to do it. And for me, it clicks and says, man, that's a great way to put it. I got to use that on the floor. So I think that just having that desire to grow and change and be the best you possibly can be is huge.
That is awesome insight. And again, to piggyback off of that, learning also comes, from yourself as well, from your mistakes that you make. Sure. I believe, I've watched you, grow as a coach because I am a little bit older than you. I've watched your maturation, and I remember arrogant Panone. I remember that guy, and I don't know him. You don't know him. You don't know him anymore.
I know that guy.
But I remember. It is what it is. That's who you were at that time. And then I believe you went to China and came back. You went overseas and came back, and you came back a completely different person. You're much more, easy to talk to and approachable. And it was I was amazed just by the fact that you took such a personal initiative to grow as a person and as a young person. A lot of young people don't have that mindset of being like, you know what, I am an arrogant prick. I am this and that, and to be able to, go in and really change their DNA almost on who they are to become a better person, better coach, better husband, better friend.
Absolutely.
I think through that you've become all of that. So that's awesome.
To touch on that, I would say that the human nature and the culture of today, I can't say previously because I wasn't alive, but definitely today is to blame others.
Right.
If something goes wrong, my coach sucks.
Oh,
He's doing a terrible job.
Right.
You know what? My point guard didn't pass me the ball. You know what? The big guy, he didn't catch it. And I think so many people are looking outwardly and their willingness to blame others instead of saying, hey, what can I do better? What did I do wrong? How can I change? How could I make this a better situation? And being able to, number one, look inward and being able to acknowledge, to be able to say, hey, you know what? I'm not working as hard as I can. Hey, you know what? I am being a prick. I am being arrogant. And that's not the best way. That's not the best person I could be. That's not how I can reach the pinnacle of success in my profession. Because at the end of the day, I think how you treat people has a major impact on your life. You never know. You never, ever know who this guy is going to be. And you know what? It's a great statement by a guy by the name of Dotu Nakamwale, who's with the Atlanta Hawks. He was with the Erie Bayhawks when I was with the D-League. And he was talking about Jock Vaughn, who at the time was the head coach for the Orlando Magic. And Dotu, it's a great story. He was a Division III player and was just a solid player. He started emailing a bunch of NBA teams to try to break into the NBA. Some people responded, treated him really well. Some people didn't. And he ended up getting an internship with the Orlando Magic. And he worked his tail off. And one thing Jock Vaughn told him, which is a great way of putting it, is people don't remember what you say. People remember how you made them feel.
Yes.
And
yes.
Now he's been able to move up, and he's a very, very, very talented guy. I think he's going to be a GM one day and run a team. He's super smart. But I think that's so important, how you make people feel, because, the way that you treated me when I was a young camper, and then one day you called me up, asked me to train you.
Absolutely.
And I could look and say, hey, man, you could have been a prick to me.
Right.
I sucked. I wasn't any good. I probably thought I was really good. And you could have been like, man, you suck, blah, 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 and you could have treated me terrible. Instead, you took me aside and taught me different ball handling drills. And the moment you called me and said, hey, will you work with me, it was kind of like it was mind-blowing. I was like, man, this,
I still hear the word speed in the back of my head. I remember working with you and kill the grass drill and all that kind of stuff. Yeah. So, no, it was awesome how, like you said, like just how you make people feel kind of shapes the impact, and you never know how the relationship's going to come back at you
And
again.
you never know who that person's going to become.
Absolutely.
And people remember.
Absolutely.
I remember who helped me. I remember who treated me great. I remember the people that don't.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. On the lighter side, so you've traveled around the world. You've dealt with a lot of players again. Any funny stories you have working with athletes or experiences different countries? Because you've been to China, like that's night and day from the United States. I know the food and everything over there is different. Any funny stories?
Funny stories about China or about players?
Just anything in your experience of just coaching and everything.
You know, it's funny. I've been able to live in China and Germany for an extended period of time. And now I'll be living in Israel. And then I've visited, Italy, Greece, Denmark, Sweden, Korea, a bunch of other countries. And it's interesting. I think oftentimes we feel like the way we do things is the best.
Right.
And our way is the best, and everyone should do it our way. And I've been to these different countries, and there's a lot of people that say negative things about China. Like you said, I came back from China just different because, man, they've got phenomenal things in their culture that we could adopt. And what we think about as poor here in the States, typically poor, not homeless, but poor, you usually have running water, air conditioning, heat, and electricity. In China, we're not talking homeless. We're talking poor. You don't have that. I mean,
Oh, wow.
There was a village right behind us that they lived in like 10 shacks, and they didn't have any electricity. They didn't have any air conditioning. They didn't have any heat. And for running water, they all had to go to one well to get the water out. And so it was really mind-blowing to think about the things that we take for granted.
Absolutely.
And in everyday life. And that's not to say people here don't struggle, but there's always someone that has it worse than you. And so one time we were in China, and poor there is poor.
Mm-hmm.
Well, they don't really use diapers for their babies because their diapers are very expensive.
True.
Right, so they use cloth.
Okay.
So we're on a subway.
Uh-huh.
And the way that it is grandparents there, number one, the way in the Asian culture, the way they treat their elderly or someone older than you is amazing. I mean, it's amazing. So in the Chinese culture, the grandparents kind of raise the babies.
Okay.
They spend a lot of time with them. So this grandmother had, this 1-year-old on the subway. The baby's got to go to the bathroom on the subway. Doesn't wear diapers. So, man, they pull the pants down. They get out a plastic bag so the baby can pee in it.
Okay.
While that's happening, the baby starts peeing,
Uh-huh.
and the bag is not out yet.
Uh-huh.
Okay, so now on the subway, it's tight. Like, people are like this.
Right.
So this baby's peeing and starts hitting her on her arm, on her shirt, and I'm just sitting across. I'm like, does nobody see what's going on? Because no one else is acting
Right.
like this is out of the norm.
Right.
The girl next to her is reading a book, and she's not even like flinching to get away. She's reading a book. So all of a sudden, it's hitting her on the arm, hitting her on the chest, starts hitting her in the face, and I'm like, what is going on here? This baby is peeing on her face, and finally she gets the bag on it, so the baby can pee in the bag. And man, I just. She wasn't acting like anything was out of the norm.
She was reading something while she's getting peed on the face, just like...
Right, the girl next to her, and it wasn't like a quick reaction. It wasn't like, all right, let me scoot over.
Right.
She stayed there, was reading, and she's getting peed on.
That's insane.
And the lady that's getting peed on wasn't acting like that was out of the...
Right.
Like, that's probably happened a few times because
Right.
they're not fortunate enough
Right.
to be able to have diapers.
Right.
And, man, you get off the subway sometimes, and you'll see people holding a baby over a trash can, using the bathroom because they don't have diapers. And it's a different world in some places.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
But I will say, universally, this is in the different countries I've been in. American players don't understand this. From high school guys that are trying to go to college guys that are trying to become pros. You are literally competing with people around the world for those opportunities.
Yes.
And so while you're thinking, I'm the best player on my high school team, or I'm the best player in my county, or I'm the best player in my state, you're competing against guys from all over the world as well. And it's amazing how serious players in China, in Korea, in Germany take their basketball. I mean, they take it serious. They're working their tail off. And while here we may feel like it's, I was in Korea. I just spent a month in Korea. And I think American players naturally feel like we're so much better than the rest of the world. And Hawaii Pacific was playing the college national team of Korea.
Okay.
And so now you're thinking, okay, Division II school, playing Korean players. In your mindset, you're like, all right, they won.
Hawaii Pacific won.
They got drilled by 25 the first game.
Wow.
Now, the second game, they ended up winning, and maybe they won by 10. They ended up beating them for the championship, so they played early in the round. But those guys, the American players, there's no question they would have ever thought, we're going to run through everyone.
Right.
And the Korean players, Asia, which is heavily behind Europe in terms of basketball development and where the country is, continent is compared to Europe, they lost. And it was an eye-opening event to say, hey, man, these guys can play everywhere. And if you look in the NBA, look how many international players in there.
They're starting to invade.
So that was when you're talking about funny stories, and those guys take it serious.
Do you feel like how you said earlier, like USA is here, the rest of the world is working harder because we're more talented, and now do you think at one point the world is going to take over as far as being head in basketball?
I think from a skill level, there are some countries that are probably ahead of us. We're just fortunate that we have such dominant athletes and long athletes. But I'll say this, the mentality is different. So in China, they practice 11 months out of the year. So the way that it works, the way that your coaching contract set up, they want you there 11 months out of the year. 1 month after the season, they get a break. Right after that, they're starting practice.
Oh, wow.
And they are practicing twice a day for a total of 4 hours, 2 hours each practice. And they're lifting, and they're running mountains. And, when we were there in the season, our pro team, we had a junior team. Well, we ate breakfast at 8 a.m. Well, by the time we got in there at 8 a.m. with our pro team, the junior team, which was 16 to 21-year-olds, they were coming in for running an hour. So they were outside running on cement for an hour, which is crazy, right? So they get in there, they eat breakfast, then they go and they have practice after breakfast. Then they come back, they take a nap. Then they wake up and they lift. Then they come back and they nap. Chinese love to nap. Then they go and they eat dinner. Then they come back and they practice outside. And so they're practicing outside in the heat. And so with one of our translators, we got into an argument just about, man, you're overtraining these guys. You're running on cement.
Right.
You're playing on cement for so many hours from 16 to 20. You're going to wear these guys' joints out, their knees, their back. There's so much pounding, and that they're overtraining. And what he said to me, which what you're talking about is, he said, you know what? America is so much better than us that we have to work that much harder to catch them. And while I don't agree with the way that they're going about it, that is the mentality of China.
Right.
That, hey, they're so much better, we have to work twice as hard as them to ever catch them. And I think the way that they're doing it is actually hurting the development of basketball. But it's a powerful mindset for what we're talking about when you're competing against the rest of the world.
Right. I mean, as soon as they get some better knowledge, it might be game over, on how to go about all that type of stuff.
Sure.
That's insane. That's insane. Well, Coach, definitely been blessed to have you on here, giving us great insight. I hope a lot of you young athletes out there watching this show is hung on to every single word this guy said. He has done it on a big, big, big level, and is continually do that. We already know it's happening. You're going to get a job in the NBA someday, because your work ethic is insane. Somebody's going to see what you're doing. You're going to get it. Just remember us little people over here at Beast Athletics, man.
Man, as we're saying, hopefully I'm fortunate enough to make it to the NBA, which is what every player wants. It's what every coach wants. But if my career is coaching professionally, internationally, and living abroad for 30 years and seeing the world, I'm a very, 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 very fortunate person.
Absolutely.
So
Absolutely.
I've been lucky to have some success, and combination of hard work, right people around me, looking out for me, and been very lucky.
Good stuff. All right, that's the show. First, tell us about the type of cancer Morgan was diagnosed with.
Morgan was diagnosed with neuroblastoma,
Okay.
which is a rare non-genetic cancer. It actually only affects one child out of every 175 children born.
Wow.
Every day. So out of the ratio of the disease that Morgan has, it's higher in boys. Usually kids only catch it while they're in newborn stage all the way up to the highest age they've caught it is 8, and that was rare. Mostly kids up to 3 will come down with the disease.